Hi, scrolling along with Susan. Hey, today's episode is going to be about lamination. I love lamination. It's really fairly easy to do if you have the equipment to have thinner boards that you can glue up together to make all sorts of special colors. Here's one of my laminated pieces that I had cut off for a cutting board. I had made a box out of this one that I have leftover lamination, and this one I'll show you how I glue this one up. And I'm going to just be making some little items out of it. I'm going to be making pendants to wear. You can make buttons. You can make pulls out of it. There's so much you can do with lamination. I have 2 pieces of Osage orange, a purple heart piece, and 2 maple pieces. They're various thicknesses. They're all under 1/4 inch, and they're about 1 inch wide. My glue of choice is Type Bond 3 because it is the strongest, and I want this lamination to really hold well. Make sure you are covering every millimeter of each one of these boards so it will glue properly. And sometimes I will use bar clamps underneath to support, but this is a very small size, so I'm just using the table to keep it flat against the table and then using a lot of bar clamps. You definitely want squeeze out. And after about an hour, I'm going to scrape off the top. After scraping off any excess glue on these laminated pieces, then I ran it through my planer, or you can use a hand sander. I'm going to start with this piece. This is a little under 1/4 inch thick, and I've got various hardwoods all glued together. And I'm going to make a round pendant out of it. Now this is a Fisker's circle pattern that you can buy at Joann Fabrics or probably Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to be taking the circle and you can kind of view what it's going to look like and how much of the wood that you want in this piece. This is going to be really pretty. So I'm just going to go with that. And then I'm going to have a piece in the middle that I'm going to be cutting out that's also going to be a circle. I'm going to just use my drill press with a certain size because this is too big. If you're using a drill press or even if you're using a hand drill, make sure you have a backer board underneath it so you don't have all of this tear out on the other side. I'm also going to drill a small pilot hole on the outside of my circles so that I can try to keep the piece intact when I'm cutting it. Now, circles are one of the trickiest things to make it be as round as you possibly can. A lot of people will cut just up to the line and then sand it to get a better circle. Or you can cut on the line and then make it a little bit smaller, which in this case, I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. So I'm going to cut right on the line here. Make sure you start with a new blade for every project. My blade is a Pegas MGT5R. I really hate to waste wood, so I'm going to make something out of this. I'm just going to draw a little bobble here and make it a little wider here. And just another little pendant out of it. On this piece of maple, it's got some great figuring in it. And I've got purple heart and cherry here. And I'm just going to be cutting out 2 crosses. So I am going to put it in between a holding vise and tightening it down so I have something to hold on to when I'm cutting. Cutting hardwoods this thick takes a very long time. You want to make sure that your blade is at a 90-degree angle to the table, and take your time with this. There is no rush. Here I'm going to end up getting 2 pieces out of 1. 2 necklaces, cross necklaces out of 1 piece of wood. I think it looks pretty good. Now I'm going to tape these back together so I can cut out the cross once instead of having to cut 2 different pieces. And this is just clear packing tape from a hardware store. And I use clear so that I can see my pattern that I drew underneath. Cutting crosses is an excellent way to work on those nice sharp points in corners. stopped, backed out, and now I'm going to be cutting the cross part. One thing that I encourage you to do, it's not going to be perfectly even when you cut it on the scroll saw, but draw on there where you need to fix it, and then go back and use your scroll saw to come in and just take little hair off here and there. I am using one of these large tongue depressors. Round out the ends, and I think I'm going to make it, I don't know, about yay long. And I'm going to be cutting this in like 3 or 4 pieces so they're real thin. You can buy a clamping system like this online, or you can simply make one yourself. I can feel that my blade might be getting a little dull. It's better to be safe than sorry, so I'm putting a new blade in. I am ready to cut all 4 slices. I think that's going to be pretty. So I just finished cutting the thicknesses. I've taped it back together, and now I'm just cutting the top profile. Well, this to me is the funnest part, is to seeing what you've created. Now I know I have a lot of sanding to do, and I need to drill the hole that's going to loop the necklace chain to, but look how pretty these are. With most every project I do a lot of sanding with a lot of different equipment. And this is my belt disc sander, and I'm just rounding over the circle edges, just trying to shore them up to make sure they're nice and round. This is a Delta bench grinder that I have fitted specially with a round sanding unit, and I bought this whole unit through Judy, Gale, Roberts.com. And this is kind of nice. It's going to be a nice, it's going to curve over this. This is too blunt. So I need to make it nice and curved over on the top and the bottom. I've done all of my major sanding on these 2 pieces. And now I'm down to the nitty-gritty. So I'm using a hand block, I'm using 220 fine grit and 400 grit. Let's not forget about these lovely files. You can pick these up really at any hardware store, and that's going to get into those nice edges there. I hope you can see this. I didn't go all the way to the edge to compromise my circle, but I have a nice curve on both sides, so there's like a little bit of an edge all the way around. Old jewelry feels so much better when it has a nice, smooth feel to it, so always make even your sharp points a little bit smoother. When you think you are done sanding, I always like to take mineral spirits and wipe off my piece. It gets rid of the other sawdust from the other colors, and it also lets you know what type of sanding you still need to do on each piece. And of course, when it starts, the paper starts getting like this, you're going to switch to another piece because you don't want the colors to bleed into each other. Who needs paint, right? When you have nature as your paint box. I mean, look at that. Look how beautiful that is. I love using tongue oil. It takes a little bit longer to dry than most normal oils, but it actually penetrates into the wood instead of laying on top of it. Here are some of my finished pendants. I hope this gives you some kind of an idea of what you can do with lamination. This one was kind of fun. I took some of the scraps and added an eye and put it on the front. Some of the items like this one, I added some polyurethane for a little bit of a shine, and the other ones I just kept with the tongue oil. So I hope you enjoyed seeing how I use my lamination in some smaller projects and might want to give it a try. Thanks for watching.